Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and I am excited about today's episode because I really relate to it. We are going to talk about when success and happiness actually triggers old patterns and why food and body struggles often flare up once you finally have what you always wanted, once you finally look the way you always wanted or find love and feel like you belong, right? Like, have you ever noticed how sometimes when things finally start going well, right? When you get the promotion, when you meet the person, you meet your partner, or you feel genuinely at peace, all of a sudden the food chaos, the food chatter, it starts to sneak back in. Right? You start thinking about food again. You notice old body insecurities resurfacing. You catch yourself, grazing in the kitchen or micromanaging your meals like you did, maybe a year ago, or you feel like you thought you had perhaps moved past some of these behaviors. And you think to yourself, what is wrong with me? Why now when everything is finally good? And I want to normalize this for you because not only have I experienced this, but so many of my clients, because their lives are actually great, right? And once they step into that, it's something that a lot of them face. And so if you're listening to this today, I want you to know that success and safety, right? Having what you want often trigger the very patterns that we thought we'd already outgrown. And it's not because you are a self-sabotager, but it's because the nervous system is trying to reconcile a new identity, a new level of safety that it's never known before. It hasn't yet kind of officially installed as its new operating system. So in today's episode, I want to unpack why that happens and how food and body struggles are often just old survival patterns reawakening when love, visibility, or belonging, right? Feeling like we finally belong and fit in, which is such an important thing for humanity and for our humanness, right? Why this happens when those things finally do arrive in our life. And so for most women, and I've seen this so much over my years, and even with myself still in some areas, it doesn't happen so much with food, but I do notice this to happen sometimes where for most women, the hardest part isn't chaos, it's calm. And I feel like really let that sink in. For most people, and I say women, but I think it's really people, it's like men, women, everybody. The hardest part isn't chaos, it's calm, because chaos for so many of us feels familiar. It's predictable, even if it's painful. And when things finally become safe, when they finally become secure, when a secure love or success enters into the picture, the nervous system doesn't recognize it, right? It doesn't recognize it. Doesn't have a pattern yet for it. And so for many of us, even though you might expect that this would feel peaceful, it feels threatening. And normally this doesn't come immediately because when we first get the love and the success, there's a dopamine rush. So we're in like the addict, the new relationship energy of it all. And so it's usually like a couple weeks to a few months later that it starts happening, where this can start to come up. And this is because after a while, the body, right? If you've read the book, The Body Keeps a Score, the body remembers a time when being seen, having success, or being loved wasn't safe, or where there were limiting beliefs around that, right? Or when closeness came with conditions, or when good moments were followed by disappointment, loss, betrayal. So even though the conscious mind says, I'm so happy now, the subconscious mind is whispering, don't relax, don't trust this. And so the food, whether it's actual overeating or just obsession over food, right? Like the food noise and the food chatter, becomes the buffer, right? It becomes the thing that helps you manage the vulnerability of feeling safe. Because actually, landing in safety is really vulnerable. I think it's really important to understand that trusting that you're safe is such a vulnerable place to be. To let your guard down, it's really hard. So I want to normalize that. Because the moment you finally feel safe is often the moment that your survival patterns come up and ask, are we sure? Right? Are you sure? And secondly, when you have success, when you have connection, when you finally find that love, it brings visibility. It brings a new kind of attention. And for a lot of people, that visibility can feel like exposure. And there's a very subtle difference between visibility and feeling exposed. And there's a flavor of safety. Visibility can feel great and nice, or it could feel exposed. And exposed has a feeling tone of danger in it. So I want you to reflect on yourself and really see if you can parse out that within yourself, right? If that's happening for you. Because oftentimes when you finally get what you're craving and you might have this unconscious feeling inside of you of being exposed. So when you finally get what you wanted, which, whether that's love, whether that's admiration, appreciation, belonging, suddenly your mind starts scanning for the next shoe to drop, right? The other shoe to drop. And you start thinking, what if they stop loving me if I gain my weight back? What if I can't maintain the success? What if I'm too much? Right? What if I'm too much for people? And so food and control over food, or, abusing food, whatever your behavior with food is, becomes the control valve and the control mechanism to manage the anxiety of potential loss of safety, loss of belonging, loss of love, loss of admiration, validation. I remember one woman who I was working with, she told me, when I fell in love, I started restricting again. Not because I wanted to lose weight. It had nothing to do with it. It was because I was terrified of losing him, right? I was terrified that he was going to leave me, right? This person didn't have weight to lose. And this behavior with food had nothing to do with wanting a result of weight loss. It had to do with, this was her familiar control valve that had nothing to do with a result around weight loss, but had to do with a much deeper fear, a much deeper wound and fear. And so if you're starting to notice if you're starting to notice that this happens with your relationship with food and your body, when things are good in your life, I want you to know that this is not self-sabotage. It's actually a protective mechanism, right? It's your body hyper-focusing, because that's what we do, right? When we are in fight or flight or we're nervous, we hyper-focus. And they're like, if I can control this one thing, maybe I can control the pain if it all falls apart. Or also, you're sort of blocking yourself from really feeling the goodness of it all by distracting yourself with this control situation, right? Sometimes food chaos is not about hunger. It's not even about food or body image at all. It's just about trying to protect the goodness that you finally have and are excited about having in your life. Because when you do finally have that, when you heal, when you succeed, when you fall in love, when these things happen for you, you enter a new reality. You enter a new reality. You enter a new version of your identity. And what often is happening is that your other identity, the part of you that spent years surviving, right, in this survival mode, scarcity mindset, chasing, working hard to get it, right, to get there, hasn't caught up yet to this identity of yourself that's there and has it, right? You've been the struggler, you've been the fixer, you've been the achiever, the always working on yourself, right? You're like, this is who you are, right? You're always chasing the end goal, and suddenly you're at the end goal and you don't need to be that person anymore. And that can feel super disorienting, right? A client of mine in a coaching call a couple months ago said to me, I've built my entire identity around trying to fix my relationship with food and my body. And now that it's better, I actually don't know who I am. And this identity lag, because that's what it is, it's a lag between two identities. It could make success, feel like loss, because you've built, even though it's kind of been a struggle bus, you've built safety around the struggle. So what happens when you're in a good place and you're in the abundance and the good feeling and the goodness that you were chasing this whole time, when you're finally there, the brain unconsciously brings back old patterns after the high of the dopamine, goes away, that you've gotten it, right? You've gotten there because there's a high with that. Once that goes away, your brain unconsciously brings back old patterns just to feel like you, but the old you. But that's what your nervous system and brain and operating system has known. So it's going to try to go back. So that's what I want you to understand, that so when this comes up, this is not backsliding. This is an opportunity for integrating. And what's happening is the old identity and the new identity are learning to meet, right? The self that's learning how to be peaceful, that's learning how to be in the good life, is catching up to the self that lived in pain, or the other way around, however you want to see it. But either way, they're integrating together. And every nervous system has an upper limit, right? So we hear this all the time with people that win the lottery, right? It's like they win the lottery, somebody who has never had large sums of money before, they win the lottery. And how many times have we seen that those people end up like, I don't want to call it sabotage, right? Because it's not sabotage, but on the outside, it could look like sabotage. But a lot of times those people end up just like exactly where they were before. And it's like, wait, but I don't get it. You went to get a lotto ticket for years and years and years, chasing that reward. And now you have the reward and now you're back to where you were before, right? Like you somehow were back where you were before. And that's the same type of thing with this, because it was never about, like, having more money is not going to make you a different person unless you've expanded the capacity of your nervous system's ability to hold and receive the goodness. Because every nervous system has an upper limit. Every nervous system has a threshold for how much safety, success, and love it can tolerate before it flips into dysregulation. And when you go beyond that upper limit, the body says this is too much. It doesn't even matter if what's happening is good, right? Like my lottery example. Your system associates expansion and goodness with danger. It doesn't matter if on the outside, externally, it's quote unquote a good thing. It's still expansion. It's still dangerous for your nervous system. That's why when things get better, the subconscious is going to pull you back, or might pull you back towards the familiar discomfort. You've built a good life. From the outside, it looks like you have it all together. You eat clean, you work hard, you take care of everyone. But there's this one area that still feels impossible to master, and that is food. You can eat perfectly all day and still end up in the kitchen at night wondering why you keep doing this. You promise yourself you'll start fresh tomorrow, and I know you mean it every single time. But the cycle, it always finds its way back, especially when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, or when you're just tired of being the one that's holding it all together. And I get it because I lived that way for years. And what I learned is this: the problem, it was never about food. It was the pressure underneath it, the perfectionism, the self-doubt, the part of me that never felt safe and secure to just be me. And that's why I created the sober eating sequence. It's a proven 3-phase method that rewires the emotional patterns and the belief systems driving overeating so you can relax, trust yourself around food, and release weight completely naturally, without force and without obsession. Because when your body feels secure, it lets go. The cravings quiet, the self-punishment, it softens, and food, it stops being the thing that you have to fix. This is not another plan. This isn't another rule book. It's a revolutionary transformation for your nervous system, for your body, and for your identity. So join the sober eating movement today. The food, overeating, patterns that you thought, the cravings and giving into them, the body obsession, the old chaos, because chaos can feel like home. So the real work here, the real way that you're going to get what you think, like someone who wins a lottery thinks the money is going to give them, or what you think the weight loss is going to give you, right? The real way you're going to get to that result is learning how to expand your capacity for safety, right? Expand your nervous system's capacity for safety so that you can train your body to know that abundance and peace and feeling good is not a setup for loss. So that looks like grounding yourself when good things happen. It's actually grounding yourself in that. It's taking compliments instead of deflecting them, right? This is a really good training. It's letting yourself feel proud without waiting for the other shoe to drop. When you let yourself feel these positive self-esteem building feelings, like, where you anchor yourself in the good thing and you let that wash over you. When you get a compliment and you actually say, thank you so much, that feels really good to me. When you let yourself integrate that, let that laminate in your cells. When you get a success and you actually let yourself feel proud without suppressing that because you're worried it's going to look arrogant, right? Instead, just let yourself feel like, yes, I am proud. That was great. Train your body to feel uplifted and good about yourself. That is what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, every nervous system has an upper limit, but that upper limit, similar to how the brain is neuroplastic, the nervous system also can expand. The thing is you need to stretch it gently with little behaviors, micro behaviors, like examples that I just gave before. You don't want to eliminate the upper limit. You want to keep growing the upper limit, keep growing it, right? And so when you do that, you become this version of yourself that is the new identity, who knows how to receive without worrying, without deflection, right? Knows how to receive without something in the back of your mind being like, oh, this is going to go away, right? You know how to let love in, how to enjoy success, how to eat, right? Without fear. It's not like you're now this perfect, untouchable version of yourself, right? You just continue to notice, because as you elevate your identity, more triggers like this are going to come up. You're going to learn so much more about yourself, and another upper limit is going to reveal itself to you. But that is what evolving is all about. And that's the goal here, right? Because when you're able to focus on this version of yourself, right, and becoming an evolved higher version of yourself, when you do that, the behaviors that we're focusing on a lot, like the emotional overeating and the weight loss and this and that, they go away much easier, right? They do. They go away much easier because you're connected to something else, right? You're connected to this higher, and I keep saying higher version, but this, you're connected to a version of yourself that once you have that connection and you have that safety and security, you don't need these other behaviors as much. And therefore, when you do potentially like overeat too much or put on a couple of pounds and whatever it is, it doesn't have so much of an impact on your sense of identity, and it doesn't take so much focus. Hyper focusing on that stuff usually means that we're in a scarcity mindset. So when you live in a more mindset of abundance and belief that you deserve to live and feel good, that mindset in and of itself actually helps to rewire the behaviors. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode today. Okay. Nothing is wrong with you if food and body struggles all of a sudden start to resurface when life finally gets good, right? You are not sabotaging your success. You're not falling backwards. You're not failing. Nothing is happening. You're just meeting the part of you that has never felt safe in this before. You're meeting the part of you that's never been in this before. Right? It's like a newborn version of you, basically, right? Because success, love, and belonging, having those things, those are a lot of goals for people. And we're really good at chasing goals and achieving goals. But what it does is it challenges your nervous system. And that's something that oftentimes we're not as good at navigating. Right. So the same way the body has to adapt to new strength training, right? So it's like if you want to build physical muscles, you have to continue to raise the weights and you have to continue to stretch the edges. Your emotional body has to adapt to new safety, right? A new threshold of being. So if you find yourself reaching for food in moments where you're like, I'm so happy, I have everything I want. Again, don't see it as regression. See it as an invitation to regulate, to expand the upper limit of your nervous system, and to teach your body that it is safe to receive what it's always wanted and it's not going anywhere. Because here's the most important thing. The goal isn't to learn how to get safety, learn how to get to your goal. It's learning how to organize your beingness, your emotional body to stay in it. Okay, that is oftentimes the most challenging part. It's not getting there, it's staying there. So that is all I have for you for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you are watching on Spotify, please subscribe to us there, leave us a review there. And if you are interested in a free one-on-one session with me, we do a monthly giveaway. At the end of the month, we pick a winner every month. One person who leaves us a review and a rating on Apple will be entered in to win the free one-on-one session with me. You just need to send a screenshot of that to podcast@bewellbyak.com, or you can DM us at bewellbyak on Instagram. Thank you so much again, and I will see you next time on Emotional Eating Unwrapped.